So they changed the layout on this, and it's all weird. So I'm just looking around to try to figure out what's going on. Ah, there we go. For a minute there, I lost the video window, and I'm not sure how. Sorry to the one person that's tuned in watching. They moved everything around from how it was last week, and I'm not sure what's going on. But hopefully this is coming through, and hopefully somebody's watching, because I'm not quite sure how this new system works. So yeah, if you're on and you want to chat about cruisers, just enter in your questions on the chat, and we can talk. So can anybody see or hear me? I think I've got this set up right. and I didn't really pre-plan anything to talk about. I just figured I'd answer any questions that anybody had to ask. Uh, so yeah, almost missed signing on. I was working on doing the editing for the 80 series oil pump cover video, which is almost finished. Hopefully I'll get that done, finished up editing this evening, and can get that uploaded. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat box, and I'll see if I can answer them. Or if you can't hear and see me or work in the chat box, hopefully I'll figure out what's wrong. I should have done a pre-run of this instead of just assuming that it would work like it did last week. Is the chat window off to the side, is that popping up in you guys' screens? I tried to open it in a second screen on mine, but oop, oh, okay. So I just opened up a second screen on my computer. Now I can see people's chats, and I'm going to take my headphones off because that's weird because it's like got some weird delay. But I can see Adam S's chat questions now. I'm not sure why they're not coming up in the other window. But yes, now I can see the chats. So for lockers, front and rear, for an FJ62, it depends on what you're looking for as far as lockers. For Harrop E-lockers, I get those from Cruiser Brothers. Georg and Ward are awesome, great dudes. For ARBs, Cruiser Outfitters in Utah, or I've got a couple local distributors that I can get them from. But probably the easiest way is just Cruiser Outfitters, because they seem to always have them in stock. So hopefully that answers questions. Yeah, I'm not doing real well at getting these live chats up and running. I think I need to do more studying on how the actual software works. Oh, I didn't even think about lunchbox lockers. PowerTrack's no slip as far as service parts. You mean like the springs and pins? because for things like that, you'd probably have to go straight through power tracks. It's been it's probably been 10 or 15 years since I've done an actual power tracks. Everybody's been getting the Aussie lockers lately, and we get them straight from Aussie Locker. Oh, axle rebuild stuff. That stuff I'd get from Cruiser Outfitters, or either Cruiser Outfitters or Cruiser Brothers. We I get more of my stuff from Cruiser Brothers, just because I'm set up with them. But both kits, both shops sell real high quality kits. I'm pretty sure the Cruiser Outfitters stuff is all Japanese bearings. I know the Cruiser Brothers stuff is. Yeah, they're pretty similar as far as the kits go. I haven't used a Cruiser Outfitters kit in a while, just because we've been using the Cruiser Brothers stuff lately. But yeah, whichever one's closer to you or easier to get a hold of is probably who I'd go with. The Terrain Tamer ones from Cruiser Brothers seem to have more of the sheet metal parts, like the retainers and things like that the older kits didn't have in them, but they may have now from Cruiser Outfitters. So yeah, it's a toss-up. I'd go with either. Both of them are great shops to deal with. No problem. Yeah, we run into it a lot. People, will bring an older cruiser by, to get something fixed, and like they think it can be fixed same day, and it's, a lot of times we have parts in stock, but a lot of times you have to order it and wait for it. And people that are new to cruisers, a lot of times they just don't seem to understand that I can't run down to the local Napa and grab a knuckle rebuild kit. So yeah, some of the stuff you got to wait on, but they're reliable enough you don't have to do that often. Yeah, it's weird. I just went back to the actual broadcast window, and I still can't see anybody's chat. Um, I can only see what I was typing, which isn't showing up over here. That's weird. I'll have to figure that all out. Yeah, I wish there was a way um, that people could like pop in like windows, like pop up video, and you didn't have to type. You could just like chat, and maybe there's an option to do that. But I don't know how to do it, so I'm gonna have to look into that because that'd be a lot more fun. I think if everybody could talk to everybody in the video, and then you wouldn't have to type because I can't type either. And you've got an FJ62. People have been asking for more videos for them, so I'm doing one probably tomorrow on doing the galley plug in the head, pulling out the lead plug and replacing it with a threaded fastener. And a couple of people have asked for timing videos. So while I've got that one kind of apart and open and here, I'll go ahead and shoot a timing adjustment video for that as well. So we'll get a little bit of more 3FE uh, ongoing brain dead. We'll get some more action for the 3FE crowd in the 62s. Because most of what seems to run through here is 80 series, and we're getting more 100 series in. So that seems to be what most of my videos have been so far, just because that's the majority of what comes through. Um, I don't have anything on the schedule for torque converters or valve bodies. We don't get a whole lot of 62s through here. Probably only like maybe 4 or 5 of them a year. We actually just had a 62 in here maybe a month ago that had one of the wholesale automatics valve bodies in it. I don't know which one. He had it put in a couple of years ago. It drove really nice. And Cruiser Brothers is hooked up with wholesale automatics now, so they're bringing a lot of that in. So hopefully in the near future, I'll be doing more of those. I've got an FJ62 trans that was slipping that we pulled out of a truck and just put another used trans in. If I get some free time, I may tear that down and see about doing a rebuild on it. In which case, I'd probably do one of the wholesale automatics valve bodies at the same time, just because it'll all be apart. Yeah, so yeah, people have been asking for 3FE timing video. So yeah, we'll shoot that. I may do a valve adjustment video while I've got the valve cover off to do the galley plug. It just depends on how much time I end up having tomorrow. It's just me at the shop this week. The other tech here, Crash, had his firstborn over the weekend, so he's on paternity leave, which is making it kind of hectic to try to get all these cruisers built and shoot videos and edit videos and do live chat. But it's fun. Yeah, I don't think I've ever dealt with West Coast cruisers. I don't think I've even ever heard of West Coast cruisers. I'll have to check them out. Yeah, it'd be nice to get more 62s in. Uh, but even the ones we seem to get in, they don't have the automatics in them still. A lot of them have been converted over to the H55 5-speed, which makes a super nice swap in a 62. Really brings them to life and makes them fun to drive. I mean, that's pretty much how I did it. There wasn't anybody in the area uh, that was working on cruisers. Well, I was actually working on Forerunners back when I started. Um, so I just, was mostly self-taught. I was working in shops as a body man doing paint and restoration, but always wanted to be on the mechanical side. So I just kept doing that in my spare time. Bounced around a couple of different shops, and then just decided, hey, I'm gonna go out on my own as a mechanic, not a body man. So I did the mobile gig for a while. Moved into the shop here about 2 years ago, and it's been pretty much all Land Cruisers ever since. Prescott, Arizona is awesome. I was out there like 2 years ago. That's where my wife went to college for her undergrad. So we went out and visited Prescott and did a bunch of hiking up at Sedona and the Grand Canyon and up in Page. It was beautiful out there. And she's friends with the lady that owns the bookstore there in town. And I think still talks to her pretty regularly. But yeah, you guys have a bunch of cool cruisers out there that aren't rusty like ours here. I need to get out that way and actually go wheeling. We went hiking all around, but I've never actually wheeled out there. Oh, I don't want to come out and work on cruisers on vacation. I like doing it and all, but yeah, it's vacation. Um, but yeah, it was beautiful out there. I'd definitely come back. I don't think I'd come back in the middle of the summer again. We came out, I think in June when we came out, and it was pretty toasty. I have not seen paint rust. I'm not really sure how that could happen. I've seen paint flake off with rust, uh, but I'm not sure how the paint itself would rust. But yeah, we get quite a bit of rust here. Um, Not as bad as when I was living up in Boston, and I was still doing body work then. And you'd come in, we'd get cars and trucks with just giant holes through them. Um, yeah, and it was a lot of fun to try to weld back to the rust. I hate dealing with rust. That's the reason I don't do paint and body work anymore, because I'm sick of dealing with rust. You guys get much rust in Arizona? I would assume that would be a dry climate. I actually don't think you're hogging the chat. I'm pretty sure me and you are the only ones watching. My chat counter only shows two, which one of them would be you, and since I'm logged in so that I can see the chat, I'm pretty sure I'm the other one. It was weird. I did the first one last week. I don't know. There was like 5 or 6 people tuned in, which was kind of cool because I wasn't expecting anybody and was expecting to be just talking to myself for an hour. Yeah. And yeah, rust doesn't weld well. Um, and trying to chase it all out and get rid of all of it, you end up with a hole 4 times bigger than what you thought you'd have. But, 8%. I think we're over 90 today. And it actually looks like it might thunderstorm tonight. Which I'm hoping it doesn't, because we're having friends over for a bonfire after I leave here. So let's hope the weather holds. Yeah, it looks like it's maybe lightening up a little bit out there. I've yet to click the bell for any videos. I need to do that because there's a lot of channels I watch that I'd like to see if they were live. I watch a bunch of YouTube in the morning while I'm eating breakfast, watching a bunch of machining and welding channels. It's crazy what those guys can do. I almost missed signing in. I was editing an 80 series oil pump cover video and wasn't paying attention to time, and clicked out of the editing window, and I was like, oh, it's like 3 minutes to 5. I need to switch things. Yeah, one of the cruiser guys from, I think, North Carolina, he's out there as a wildlife firefighter right now. I keep seeing posts on Facebook that he's out there. Not a job I would want. I lived in West Texas for a while, and the brush would randomly catch fire, and the town reservoir spontaneously combusted one day. It was way too hot out there for me. Oh, maybe I hiked on one of your trails, and if so, thank you for building them. Uh, Man, I couldn't believe how beautiful it was out there. We'd always gone to like Colorado and New Mexico when I was a kid to go skiing, but we never went out in the spring or summer. So I'd never seen anything out there without snow on the ground. Um, but my wife had gone to school out there, and she wanted to go back out and visit friends. So we just took a week off and flew out, got a rental car, and drove all around Arizona. And it was awesome. Oh, it looks like somebody else popped in. It says 3 now, so we're not the only 2. Oh, and I should probably say I'm not sure if I'm going to do chat next week. Um, I'm not entirely certain what the plans are for the 4th, and when we're leaving here from the shop. Uh, so I may or may not be online next Tuesday. But if I'm not, I'll be back on the following Tuesday. Um, I do this from home, but I don't think my internet connection is good enough to stream from. Oh, you're all good. I mean, it looks like there's a third. Oh, nope, nope, back to two. There was a third person, but now they're gone. Um, they must have tuned in and thought they were looking for cruiser chat and found hiking in Arizona chat. Uh, but I'm cool with whatever. I think it's just cool to talk to other cruiser people from around the country, see what everybody else is doing, because you get in your little pocket where you are, and you get used to whatever everybody else here is doing, and you just forget to pay attention to what else everybody else in the world of cruisers is doing. Yeah, I may pop off of here early so I can head home for bonfire. Uh, but I'll hang out a little bit longer because I think last week a bunch of people didn't pop in until later in the video. Um, I should probably do this um, later in the evening, but that means I have to stick around here at the shop longer. And by the time I'm doing this chat, it's usually time to go home, or I'm ready to go home. Uh, Leaf springs and getting a four-wheel alignment. Um, well, you're lucky on a 62 that doing leaf springs isn't going to affect your toe. Since it's a straight axle, your toe in measurement's not going to change, and really, that's the only alignment setting that you've got to have adjusted. The thing you're going to notice after installing leaf springs is because your drag link's going to be at a steeper angle, your steering wheel is going to be off center. So you can cruise around for quite a while without getting an alignment. Your steering wheel will just likely be crooked. But maybe, I don't know, maybe a week and a half, just to let them settle in. I mean, they're going to do most of their settling, probably within like the first 20 miles or so. And then you should be good. If they settle some more, your steering wheel may get a little bit more tweaked. But you can adjust it either at the drag link. Well, I guess on a 62, you can only adjust it at the drag link. So yeah, you can tweak it in the drag link yourself until it's back to straight again, without really messing with your alignment. Yeah, 60 series leaf springs and 40 series leaf springs are not a lot of fun. Here we've got enough rust that the pins are usually seized into the center sleeves, and you end up having to cut all the pins out and replace the spring pins. So we just order like the ultimate kits when we do them with all the braceable shackle pins and frame pins, just because you're going to have to cut most of that out. It'd be nice to live out west where you can just take all your cruiser bolts out without having to let them soak for a week in penetrating oil first. I really feel for the guys that live in the Rust Belt, because we're just at the very, very light edge of it. I would not want to be the guys in like Detroit and places like that. I don't have a video on straightening out the steering wheel. That's one I never would have thought of shooting. But the next time we get one in here for a lift, yeah, that's definitely something I should shoot a video, because that would be pretty easy to do with two cameras, one in the cab and one in the truck, so you can see what the adjustments do to the steering wheel real time. Um, I've got an 80 series coming in for a lift soon, which would be a pretty similar video as far as adjustment goes. So, uh, yeah, when that 80 comes in, I'll try to shoot a video on the drag link adjustment. Also, on the ends of your drag links, there's the big flathead screwdriver plug on the end. Sometimes those will be loose, and if you snug those up, the steering wheel will either go back to being straight, or it'll kick it off in the other direction. And but sometimes that can help. But if it's driving straight without a bunch of play in the steering wheel, then you probably don't need to adjust the drag link ends. In which case it may not help. But before you center the steering wheel, make sure that the drag link ends are tight. I should probably also do a video on that. I think I touched on it in the FJ40 power steering conversion, because it uses a drag link end at the steering box. I think I went over adjusting that, but I'm not positive because that was a while ago. Yeah, how'd you like the smell of the bushings burning while you cut through the pins with the grinding wheels? That is not my favorite smell. I think it's in part 2 of the power steering conversion video. Trying to think. So I think 1 was taking everything off, and then 2 was putting it all back together, and then 3 was explaining where I screwed up in number 2 and putting the power steering lines on. But yeah, it's pretty far down in the list of videos. We did that one a couple of months ago. Yeah. Grinding through the U-bolts while they're still under tension is a lot of fun when they pop. I usually grind them like right on the apex of the curve, and usually they pop, but then they kind of gently slide sideways until you hit them with a hammer. But yeah, it's still, I've done it a bunch of times, and it still scares me when they pop. It's like when you've got something loaded up in the press and you're trying to press it out, and they finally let loose, and it sounds like a gunshot going off. How did I get into Land Cruisers? Growing up, my family was all Toyota. That's all my parents drove when I was a kid. When I was in elementary school, my dad bought a first-gen 4Runner, and he drove that as his daily driver until I was, I think, a senior in high school. And then he was going to trade it in on a on a newer Forerunner on a third gen, and I ended up buying it from him with the promise that I would never ever modify it. Um, and that Forerunner is now had 5 feet cut out of the middle of it, tube chassis, it's 3-linked front and rear on 80 series axles, coil springs, dual cases, uh, and it's been beat to hell. But so I bought that Forerunner, put a mild lift on it back in the day, and we would just run around fire roads and go camping in it. My brother decided he wanted a 40 when he was like 14 or 15. So my parents got him a 40, and me and my dad and my brother fixed it up. So dad drove that camping until my brother turned 16 and could drive it himself. But by that time, my dad had gotten the bug. So he got a cruiser that ended up getting sprung over, 3-linked on coils out back, dual cases, roll cage. He's got a pretty built 40. And then my mom got hooked driving dad's 40 wheeling. So she has an FJ45 that my dad built for her. I did a bunch of sheet metal work on it before I moved up to Massachusetts years ago. And then, dad finished out everything else. So yeah, I guess originally I was more on the pickup Forerunner side of things. When I moved back from Massachusetts, like 8 or 9 years ago, I worked at another local cruiser shop for a while. So then people knew me for working on cruisers. So when I went out on my own, the cruiser people followed me. Um, and I would have like 6 or 7 of them sitting on my driveway at home, waiting for me to work on them. Which I knew the town wasn't going to let me get away with that for long. So I gave up the mobile gig and moved here to the shop. So I had more room for cruisers, and I think we have 17 here right now, which is stressing me out being the only one here. But Crash will be back next week, and we'll hustle and catch up. Yeah, yeah. My dad reminds me all the time that I didn't keep the promise long for not cutting up the cruiser. Yeah, yeah. Dad's got a 40, mom's got a 45, and my brother has 2 80s, and my nephew has an 80. So yeah, still a cruiser family. I think there's 5 cruisers, but 7 Toyotas at my parents' house right now, and then random parts rigs scattered around. And I'm not positive, but I've heard that my grandfather sold cruisers in the 70s, like at a Toyota dealership. So it goes way back. Yeah, I'd love a 55. There was one in a local salvage yard, but it was just way too far gone to put back together. I can't believe the prices of what cruisers are going for nowadays. Um, any of them. I'd love an 80 series to build as a shop truck, but the prices have just gone up so much that they're out of my budget. At least until I stop buying tools all the time. I really want a 70 series, but I definitely can't afford importing one of those. Yeah, I need to make it out to Expo one of these years. I did a rush job and put ARBs in a guy's 100 series right before Expo so that he could go out and teach I think he was teaching a locker class, like how to use lockers. And he had sold his rig that had lockers in it. So we threw ARBs in his 80 or in his 100 series real quick. And then he drove out there for Expo um, and drove back. Yeah, I love the look of a 60. I just hate the ride of them. I daily drove one for like a year, and I wasn't a fan. I love the look. I just don't like driving them. Same with 40s. I hate driving 40s around. I make crash test drive all of them. Oh yes, welcome Skittles. I should have done that. Adam stealing my thunder. I think my thoughts on 40s and 60s and 62s would likely change though if I lived out west, where you weren't constantly battling pieces falling off of them. The 60 I had, I was driving down the highway in Massachusetts, and the rear frame cross member that holds the shocks broke off. And it was just every time I hit a pothole, you could hear that frame just beating the floor of the truck. It was awesome. Yeah, I would definitely wait until the rebuild kits come in and just do everything all at once. Uh, we had an 80 series that I was rebuilding, rebuilding the knuckles on, and was going to do a pinion bearing and pinion seal because it was leaking. And we pulled the third member out, and the gears were just missing chunks. And the guy was like, I've got spares at home, but I'm traveling now, so just put the third member back in, carry on with rebuilding the axle, and I'll change it later. And it felt real bad, rebuilding the knuckles, knowing that in a few weeks, the guy was going to have to take everything we'd just done back apart uh, to change the third member again. That's just a lot of work to do twice. Yeah, my 60 definitely was not quiet or smooth. But I paid $500 for it. So you can't really expect a whole lot. Um, I tend to drive really cheap vehicles. I paid $200 for the Subaru that I daily drive now. Yeah, something about being able to fix them yourself makes you not really care about buying buckets. But if it's cool with you, I think I'm going to sign off a couple minutes early um, and head home and cook out. But thanks for joining in. I'm super glad you joined in. Otherwise, I would have been here talking to myself for an hour. Um, yeah, hopefully you will get more people in next week, or I guess the week after. I have to decide if I'm doing it next week. Yeah, because it was cool when there was more people chiming in. Not that chatting with you wasn't cool. It was cool when there was a lot of people because everybody was chatting back and forth. Oh, I'm Ryan. I guess I've never actually said that in the videos. Um, yeah, but yeah, I'm glad you like the videos. I started making them because we kept getting like the same question uh, on Knuckles. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna make a video explaining them. And like my videos aren't great. The first ones were real bad. I'm trying to get better at making them. So yeah, as long as we can keep finding cool stuff to video and people keep coming up with ideas of things they want me to video, I'll keep making videos because I really enjoy doing it. Um, it's it's nice to be able to do something to give back to the cruiser community. Because you know I came up when it was just a Land Cruiser mailing list before I Hate Mud even existed. Um, and Mud's done an amazing job of amassing, you know, all the knowledge. Um, and that's where I learned everything about cruisers, you know, just from the other guys that were willing to share on Mud. And it just seemed like there weren't a lot of videos out there actually showing how to do things. You know, there was some here and there, so I figured we'd start making videos um, and use that as our way of giving back. So I'm glad people that like glad people like watching them. Glad they're helpful. So yeah, I'm gonna sign off for now. But it was awesome talking to you, and I really appreciate it. Thanks.